At the time, Onigafuchi village had already lost its impenetrability. The villagers, once worshipped as transcendents, were now the receiving end of inhuman treatment. The sacred Onigafuchi village had been groundlessly labelled as an isolated village of those afflicted with incurable diseases, a mere shadow of its former self, and stood on the precipice of an era of hardship. Thus began harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one from Onigafuchi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you would be kidnapped by demons, cut up into pieces, and devoured. Never go near the terrifying village of man-eating demons. That was what he taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into the dry riverbeds, then cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories were said in such seriousness. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Onigafuchi village historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of the people's anxiety towards the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Onigafuchi, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for the marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce. It even caused trials. They would appeal that where one came wasn't an important enough reason to divorce. They would, however, lose their case. Lying about one's birthplace apparently constitutes a heavy act of misrepresentation in marriage. That's terrible. I've heard about such discriminations towards those in small villages in civic cases. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you would be subjected to every societal disadvantage there was, a modern form of bullying. Though I only memorised that because it was going to be on a test one time. I recall being suspicious of it, and unable to believe that such discrimination occurred in modern Japan. Wonder if that still happens today, wonder. Well, I suppose I can't say that it weren't asking for it. Our ancestors were proud of the demon blood flowing through them. They lived their lives boasting about it and scorning those at the foot of the mountain after all. They struck fear into the villages down there with their mystique and demanded gifts of dread and tribute. With that, Neon smiled for the first time, albeit in self-mockery. During the Pacific War, despite the slogans that all the country was acting as one, those from Hinamizawa continued to suffer all manner of discrimination. There were too many ways to count. They would send their husbands and sons to war, and the women on the home front would suffer greatly too. My grandmother remembers it well. She remembers it being a difficult time. Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945. Hinamizawa had lost many male hands, but at last their fathers and husbands and sons returned to them. Of course, there were many who didn't come back. Nevertheless, but those in Hinamizawa who were at their limits, barely able to maintain the village without the men, their return was a very happy thing. MacArthur's ch.2 set to work on drastically improving mindsets and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismay night that was the previous era. Hinamizawa was on the verge of turning into a ghost town. Those in the village started to say that they should rebuild it once again, and got to work, trying to make the village even more plentiful. During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family leader, Sohei Sonozaki. Sohei said that he managed food warehouses in Harbin after being dispatched to the Chinese mainland. When it was time to pull out, he conspired with his superiors and comrades and stole a great deal of the army's canned goods. He hid them somewhere in the settled inland sea and sold them widely at a high price on the black market, thus earning a fortune. Sohei didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house. Let's revive this ruined village. All who live here are our family, and this fortune is our collective property. So he proclaimed to my grandmother, the current head of the family. That vast fortune was a huge reason why Hinamizawa was revitalized after the war. I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life, and that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity. Of course, there were many people who begrudged the money coming from the black market, but the villagers no longer minded it. They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who succeeded freely supported those who followed them. The giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization. The person at the middle of it all was your Nana, Michan. That's amazing. What a great success. Mion looked like she was honestly happy. Mion looked like she was honestly happy when I had praised her. However, around 1955, the wind started blowing in the other direction again, because of the canned flesh incident. Canned flesh. It sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous. Someone, naming himself as my grandfather Sohei Sonozaki's superior, confessed that those canned goods had been human flesh. Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans. They were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma. The light they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth, as revealed by his former superior, the stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone in Hinamizawa's revival, had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Was it Sohei was the manager of food warehouses? His superior revealed that Sohei Sonozaki did not have the job of managing the food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been in exterminating pestilent mice and to transport the corpses of those with infectious diseases. It had been unfair treatment, and all because of all of the lowliness of his origins. As a result, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained, Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at the military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than the low-scorn, depressing customs of Onigafuchi village in the research they were carrying out. Could that have been, well, the bacteriological corpse in the old Japanese army or whatever? Keiji-kun, you've heard of that? What could it be? I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims, how many days it would be when injected, how many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead and dissect them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive and crush them in decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human body decompresses, all the holes in their body gets pushed outwards and their intestines get pushed out of their anus like a snake winding out. I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. And that makes me sick. And they still hate Hinozawa, huh? You said it. Mion agreed with me, giving a faint, sad smile. There wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason I was happy to have it right now. The unit Sohei was in did way kind of research than that. They were researching concrete methods for reducing the difficulty of delivering food on the battlefield. The military designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and the chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistance lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain their forces at this rate. Apparently, that's where the research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to battlefields. It was very broad, including things from violent methods like stealing it from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control until they knocked on the door called taboo. What do you think the easiest source of protein on a battlefield is? Ren and I knew the answer without being told, so we didn't answer. That's right. They are researching ways to handle using humans as food. Fighting onwards, sometimes eating the flesh of enemies and sometimes that of allies, became the ultimate service paid to their country. They were definitely serious about this doctrine. It really is a riot. My grandfather was despised as someone who ate human flesh, and yet they had gone above and beyond that. Apparently, he always thought about it though. Even if he was a vulgar man-eating demon, they were far more ugly demons than he. So no matter how much he was scolded, he wouldn't put up with it. At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learnt it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it. So it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labelled meat substitutes, and so that they wouldn't accidentally eat it themselves, they stamped the bottoms with a circle. The staff soldiers on the front lines apparently loved all the prototypes they were sent. Amongst them, those who cooked it in soy sauce like it was sukiyaki loved it the most. Come on, Mi-chan, stop. I'm getting sick to my stomach. Rena was pale-faced and she looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Leon looked like she had more to say, but she sighed lightly and stopped there. Then, those canned goods your grandpa brought back. I don't know if it's true. Sohei denied it was human flesh until the day he died. However, those who begrudged Higurashi sudden revival called him a savage for making a fortune on selling human flesh, and the villagers began to be scorned again. They returned to a time where children would be jeered at and have rocks thrown at them. Till the stifling silence came back. But a seriously hopeless and sad story it is. They discriminated, were discriminated against, discriminated and were discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I didn't know. My grandmother, the family head, once told the children of the village this. If they throw a stone at one of you, then two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they threw stones at two of us? Of course, the answer was simple. If they throw stones at two of you, then throw back with 4. If they chase 8 of you with sticks, drive them off with 16. If they slander 30 of you, yell back with 60. Finally, the children asked, what if we're attacked by 1,000 people? Even that answer was simple. If 1,000 people attack you, then everyone in Higurashi will stand up against them. It was a manifesto to spur people into action. My grandmother rose up not only as the leader of the Sonozaki house, but as the mother of Higurashi. It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when rights over the treaty with the US were rampant, a time of battle and action. The people of Higurashi joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter whether that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddle with people from Higurashi, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that, they'd win. Kei-chan, do you remember how many people came to help you when you got involved with those delinquents in town? I recalled how much of an impression they had left on me. The people of Higurashi boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okinomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved. My grandmother fought and my parents carried on the fight. At last, peace returned to Higurashi. Of course, that peace had been placed on a razor's edge. When you consider the previous hundreds of years of history, the tranquility now can only be called a chance interval, standing on uneven scales. Why? Could I really have an opinion on such a long and difficult history when I hadn't moved here more than a year ago? Yet, I said it anyway. Why can't everyone just live in peace? What happened to those old stories of Higurashi-sama that I heard from Takana-san? Man and demon joined hands and lived together in harmony. Did Higurashi-sama remain in this world to watch over that? It's a fairy tale. I mean, that even if those people and the demons were real, the Yashiro-sama who meditated between them wasn't. Is that why Yashiro-sama's curse happens? A cool gust of wind blows in from outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautifully clean hair. Mion kept a refreshing smile, without answering, and didn't even change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Higurashi village might once more be like Onagafuchi village, so that we may again be a sacred existence worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Onagafuchi, and the mission of those who inherit the demon in the Sonozaki family. Those who inherit the demon? For generations, the Sonozaki family had a custom of including the character for demon in the leader's name. When you write out my name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. I traced out the word Mion on the palm of my hand. Oh, he's right. The character for demon isn't there. Not only in my name either, the demon is engraved on my body as well. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing. It's okay, Mi-chan. You don't need to show us, okay? Thank you. With just that exchange, I guessed what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, such as a tattoo or marking, that proved that she inherited the demon. Mion didn't sit back down, she smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Mion quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mion carrying. There was the heavy, truly heavy history of Hinamizawa, no, of Onagafuchi, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to Mion like that? When I wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of the Crusaders drowned out the silence. Alas, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured. The seal instance happening over the past 5 years. I was directly related to some of them, and indirectly to others. So we're not the Sonozaki family, but we're related to the others, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. I think I was at the centre of all of them. He said it all without turning around, with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to the Mion we knew. I have faith in what I've done, and don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I will have to leave the stage before the heir is decided. If I am caught and tried in a court of law, then I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinamizawa and the most people it's been in hundreds of years could be the happiest thing that's ever happened to any of the Sonozaki leaders of past generations. Mion leaned her shoulder against the paper door, then slid it down and flopped on the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible cries Mion had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey Mion, I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away. As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room. But Rika-chan and Sakura-chan, you killed them, didn't you, Mi-chan? The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest despite not being directed at me. I'm not saying that it's okay that you killed the other people. Regardless, Mi-chan, you killed Rika-chan and Sakuto-chan. And her words were more biting than I had ever heard. Even now that we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends. Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Rika-chan bore the duty of the Furude family. That duty was to protect the ritual storehouse. My chest tightened. I learnt around last year that Rika-chan had said something about it. The bars on the storehouse were too heavy for her, and she wanted to change them for a simpler lock and key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being heavy. I was very aware of how hard it was for Rika-chan. I will make sure to guard it, so I want to replace the lock with something lighter. I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seem to be people who are insolent towards Oyashi-sama, so you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimayoshi family, old man Kimayoshi, if it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with old man Kimayoshi since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse and switched it with a really cheap and light padlock. Old man, is this really alright? Nana says that if possible, we should keep the lock the same. It'll be alright. You're quite the worrywart. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility. Do you promise? You mean that you will take the responsibility as the leader of the Kimayoshi family, right? You should be well aware of how sacred the things inside really are. It's okay. There aren't any bad cats in Hinamizawa who'd open the lock and break in. Meow, meow. Oh ho. Sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped in spades and fell onto the tatami mat. I had already heard the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Watanagashi festival. There were 4 of them, which decided to activate the day. At the same time, we needed to demand that the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Rika-chan of the Furude family and old man Kimayoshi, take responsibility. Ideas dripped and dropped. Dripped and dropped. Until just now, I had decided that it was Mion's fault that she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion. It was me. I might as well have killed them. Keiichi-kun. I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at that time I had stopped her from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We would be spending our days having lots of fun, like we always did. I was an idiot. If by shedding tears I could take it all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed. Kei-chan, you're not at fault. Mion gently began to speak to me, as if trying to reason with me. As the leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act. but given the history of the Sonozaki family, think about it now, it's no big deal. Maybe I should have saved my friends, even if it meant casting all that aside. I yielded to it, and that's why I killed those two. I, Mion Sonozaki, and no one else, killed them. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop. I gave in to the easy role that was handed to me, and abandoned all thoughts of fighting for my friends. So, this is my crime. I killed them. Mion Sonozaki, with these hands, killed them. And nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing. Her masochistic laughter was sad. Especially because Mion boasted in club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful. Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition. As I looked at her surprise, Rena stuck her finger right at my forehead. You left Keiji-kun alive. As strong as you are, Mi-chan, it would have been no trouble for you, but you didn't kill him. That's right. Mion was so cunning that no one could stand up to her, even now at club. She had seriously tried to kill me. I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people have been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. When did I first realise it? Even though people were disappearing one after another, for some reason I had this vague belief that I would be left alive. Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you. What's that supposed to mean? Shh. Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Rena didn't need to talk. Is Oshi-san waiting outside? Yes. Any way out? Nope. They said they have the place surrounded. It seems like they called a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded. Mion fell silent. Rena's merciless words felt cruel, but they weren't meant to be. They were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help. Please, turn yourself in. Mion didn't open her mouth. She smiled, just a little. We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself. Crying children and Rena are the only things I can't beat. She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion. I am well aware of how serious my own crimes are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here. I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in was just too large. So much so that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel. So I'd like you to hear one last selfish request. What is it? 30 minutes is fine. Just let me have some alone time with Kei-chan. Huh? My name suddenly came up and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that. Keiji-kun, is that okay with you? If you don't want to, then I won't make you. You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. After all, I'm a demon, and Kei-chan is a bona fide human who moved here from somewhere else. For us to be compatible, as long as Oyashiro-sama doesn't exist to meditate, simply isn't possible. There was no reason for me to hesitate. Mion had been engulfed by heavy, unopposable tradition. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen to me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Apart from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Riga-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear the sins that Mion shouldered. So, when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate. Sure, it's fine. Thank you. I'd like to thank you too, Keiichi-kun. Rena stood up. It looked like she would be keeping her promise with Mion and leave. It's fine, Rena. You can wait right here. I just want to go around the yard with Kei-chan. If you're bored, you can go to my room. You can read any manga you like. If there are any volumes you like, you might as well take them. I don't want to. Mi-chan's books belong to Mi-chan. Rena couldn't bring them home with her so freely. You're such a good kid, only at times like this. Mion took Rena's head and rubbed it lightly like I always did. Okay, let's go, Kei-chan. I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway when Rena silently stopped me. Take care of Mi-chan. Yeah. Mi-chan really does believe she won't ever be able to come back. I don't know much about laws, but with as many deaths as she's been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seem non-existent. Watch out, so that you don't make her lose her temper, okay? Mion might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put an end to it myself. Rena had already thought that far ahead. Right, I won't let that happen. Rena rubbed at her tears which had fallen without me noticing them. Okay, then go after her. I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door.